All right, welcome everybody. It is Thursday, May 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern, and I am here joined for Season 3, Episode 8 of Stride Live with a Mr. Brian Gillette of Feel Good MSP. Brian, good to see you again. Haven't seen you for a
Dude,
week
you
or two.
too, man. It's been a while since we've done something like this.
I know, and I'm sure we will have you on again later this year. But today, what are we talking about? We're talking about something that's pretty near and dear to my heart, and I'm talking with MSPs on a daily basis, even though I'm the accounting, tax, that advisory guy. Why your MSP needs a sales process update in 2026. I see it all the time. MSPs may have a process. They've done things for organic and inorganic growth over the last few years. But this is a year where I really am strongly believing with AI, with the technology recession bubble, and all the things that are going on, MSPs need to reinvent their sales process. And it's better to invest now than later. You know, it's the old, hey, the best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago, but it's today. What can you do today? And I'm joined with a prospect and a sales fellow guy who is always helping MSPs with this process. And he has results. He does this on a daily basis. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm living the dream. I'm excited to talk about this because there is a lot. There you just kind of your prelude there talked about it. There's a lot of moving parts right now that I'm excited to get into. Some of the tactics we're seeing working and some of the best strategies we're seeing people use.
Absolutely. So, Brian, I know you're all over social media. People know you, but if you want to just give it a little bit of a background, hey, what are you doing and what have you done recently with MSPs to help their sales process? And what's some of the trends you've seen with the Feel Good MSP so far this year, since you are helping MSPs on a daily basis with this? I would love to hear from that boots on the ground perspective.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my name is Brian Gillette. Feel Good MSP is a coaching and consulting membership that's all about helping MSPs get new leads and close new leads with process. So the number one thing that I should say, the number one thing we're kind of fighting against right now is that there is a rising panic in MSPs who don't have a process. And you may see some of this too, Casey. It's like when the people like on the tax side, like if you're not really ready for your tax return and you don't have your paperwork together, then come tax time, it's really stressful. You're like,
Mhm.
and you're trying to find coffee stained receipts and scan them. And what is that, a 1 or a 4? And you're so stressed because you weren't prepared, right?
Absolutely.
And versus like if you have a system to keep track of all your stuff, like my P&L is up to date all the time because we reconcile every month, and that's not hard. Like that's not hard for me because we have a process for that and we have people that take care of it. And honestly, sales is exactly the same way. But because right now there's a rising sort of anxiety with the uncertainty of the economy, we're seeing that a lot of people who are like, shoot, I don't have a process to get new clients. I'm really stressed out now. And nobody is their best self when they're afraid, you know? So people start doing these like random acts of marketing, or they're making like bizarre, un unvetted investments or unstrategic investments into certain places where then they're blowing their whole like war chest on something that doesn't work, or they're doing nothing. They just freeze and they look around and they don't do anything and they're going, well, we'll just weather the storm. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, anyway, that's what I'm seeing right now. I don't know. Are you seeing similar stuff, Casey, on your side?
Yeah, I see a lot of MSPs where it's one of two schools. They either spend close to nothing in sales and marketing in the course of a year, or they spend a committed amount. And I don't say spend, I don't just mean actual investment dollars, cash. What I also mean is the time, the disciplined, focused, and really that proactive approach to, hey, there's a portion of my time always dedicated to prospecting, or I'm always evaluating what opportunities in the market are available for me for new revenue lines. I see that happening, and it does typically correlate, we see on the financial perspective, with the MSPs that are spending 2 to 10 grand a month on sales and marketing as a whole, which at first it sounds like a lot. This isn't just ads. That's the commissions, that's a person. And I see a lot of MSPs that are growing well that spend 25 to 30,000 a month, but this is a combination of inbound, outbound marketing. It's partnerships, it's referrals, it's sometimes buying leads, it's sometimes PPC. But the MSPs that are growing 20 to 40% year over year, they're doing something. There are no MSPs in my experience that I have seen in the last year that are growing more than 15% without some form of standardized sales process. Like that
That's
is
right.
the clear cut of what I see. And I think
Or
that's where I'm trying to focus on is saying, hey, invest something. You invest everywhere else, you need to invest in sales and marketing.
that's right. I will say there's one anomalous segment of the market which violates that rule, which is the people who are growing and success is just sort of happening to them. Like they just started and they're doubling year over year because they went from 3 clients to 6 clients. And then
Mm-hmm.
they just assume that they take credit for that result because they're like, I must be better than everybody else. And in reality, sometimes growth just happens to you. And that's one of the
Yes.
dangerous things about sales is that, like, yeah, sometimes when you play the slot machine, it actually pays out. And that's actually bad for you because you're going to lose. How do you think they built that casino?
Yeah.
They didn't build it by giving you more than you spend, right?
No.
So that's unfortunately what happens early with some MSPs. And you know who you know I'm talking to you if you're listening to this. 18 months in, 2 years in, you're growing really fast, but it could be success that's happening to you, not necessarily success you're creating. So you're right.
Absolutely.
You have to create a system, and we saw this in early COVID. Like MSPs went one of two ways. They either were like, "Oh crap, what do we do?"
Mm-hmm.
And they turtled up, they cut as much expense as they can, and they just weathered the storm. And then there was other MSPs who grew 5x because they were like, they realized that a market downturn is an incredible time to sell, especially if what you sell is certainty.
And
Like, go ahead.
when what you sell is also something that is typically increased in demand during periods of recession. I flat out, we see this not only in accounting, other professional services. If it comes to that equation of, is it somebody internally or something externally? Is there some subject matter expert? Typically, you can't get that expert, the sales, the marketing, the accounting, the IT professional. You can't get that of an employee at the same one-to-one level of spending. To get that expertise, you'd have to spend 3 or 4x for an employee. And I think that's why there are a lot of MSPs, as you mentioned. I was at one of them. We grew exponentially during that period of uncertainty because when there's uncertainty around that connectivity, systems, security, well, they're going to look to you. And I think that you mentioned early, being prepared is really a big part of that. Do I have the sales collateral? Have I been forced there? Because you hear it all the time. I saw your post, I think it was 2 days ago. How many MSPs are saying, I just need more leads? You don't need more leads. You don't need more leads if you don't have that process. And I think, what do you see in that trend? Do you still see MSPs this year saying, I just need more leads? Or are they starting to say, hey, no, I need to reinvent and find a differentiating factor within my process? Like, you deal with this every single day.
Yeah, there's a bubble that needs to be popped
Mm-hmm.
of naivety. And there's maybe a nicer word to use,
Yeah.
that some people have had it popped and some people have not. And that is what I call the top funnel fallacy, which is what you're
Yeah.
describing.
Yeah.
That the next step is more leads. But actually leads are an output. They're not an input. So they're an output of something that already happened.
Yes.
So you have to have done, the question is, what are the inputs that create those outputs? And in reality, you're not doing any inputs. That's why you don't have the output. So you're saying, I can't do any inputs until I have outputs. That's backwards. You have to realize that if you build the right sales process, creates leads. So you can't say, I have a super mature sales process with no leads. That's not true. That's like saying I have a really healthy farm, but I don't have any produce from it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have a healthy farm.
Yeah.
Your farm is not right. Or maybe it is healthy, but it's way too early, On that note, another problem I'm seeing right now is that people are willing to take investments, but they want to make investments without taking any risk. So they're like, I'm going to hire a sales guy and I need 90 days for him to close a deal. I'll save you the $20,000. He's not going to do it. Because that's like if I own a farm, right? if I want to farm apples, produce, whatever, and I say I'm gonna hire a farmhand and I need to get 100 pounds of apples from them in 30 days. That only works if I already have apple trees and I already have irrigation and I already have pulled all the rocks out of the soil and it's the right season for apples. And then all they need to do is go and use, they've got their gathering equipment. They have their big long things that they do to pull down the apples. They have the storage bins. I have all the process that they can go in and just do the job. The thing is that the people who give the tightest time constraints are usually, they bought an empty plot of land that used to be, that's, downhill from a landfill. And they go, I need apples in 90 days. Well, you can't have them because you don't have an apple farm. You need to build a freaking apple farm and then you can get apples. So that's just another way of saying the same, what we're talking about, which is process. And I'm happy to get into however you want to handle this, Casey. If you want to get hyper tactical right now, or what's the best? What do you want to cover?
It's funny. I have a couple questions from not the comments, but some Slack channels and some previews from our emails. And I want to save some time for those at the end, but I really want to dig deep into this because this is something I'm really adamant about. Because what you mentioned is, okay, if you want to sell those apples, you're not going to be able to if you don't have that infrastructure. And even if you wanted to say, hey, is there a way we can find something to sell in that 30, 60, 90? Even if you could or had that, hey, there are a percentage of people and individuals you can bring into your MSP and they can generate revenue in those first 90 days. But I'm going to give you two flat out truths. They're probably working for someone, or they're somewhere already, somewhere much larger at a much bigger farm, lack of a better term. And two, you probably can't afford them. And this is that constant thing that you see of that cycle of pain. I bring in a BDR, SDR to my MSP. I don't train them. They don't understand. I expect them to sell like me as a founder who's been doing this for 20, 30 years. And I know it like the back of my hand. And then I'm wondering why they haven't closed a deal in 3 weeks or the first 3 months. And it's, well, do they have a system? Do you have any inbound generation? Have you given them any tools to be successful? And, I had a Stride Live earlier this year talking about the business development hierarchy of needs. What are the things and activities and functions and processes that you need? But from your perspective, you work with a lot of MSPs that aren't just, a million too. You've worked with a wide range of 500,000, 5, 10 million plus MSPs, and they all come down to certain elements. I am a firm believer that there are fundamentals, that those basics, if you're a basketball player, you're working on your jab step, your right, your left, your transfer. What do you see in terms of process where in this episode, they can say, hey, I can take one or two elements of this and look to see if one, I have these processes or these functions in my business. And then two, they can say, if I don't, what are those steps to implement them? Because I know those things are day to day, and there's things in every MSP, regardless of size or complexity, that if you do this, you will start to build a sales and growth engine instead of, like you said, sales just happens to me and I find new business and it just happens to find me.
So I'm going to break down the answer to that question into three areas. And this is coming straight from shameless plug. I already wrote all this, but I have what I call the client formula. So how you get clients, this is the formula for how, it's how many leads you have times your closing rate divided by the lead to proposal ratio. So let's break that down into those three variables. There's leads, your closing rate, and then your LTP, your lead to proposal ratio, which is essentially your sales playbook. Okay. And those three things are the three variables that will impact how many clients you get. So number one, let's start with closing rate. If you're listening to this going, I have a super high closing rate, I just need more leads.
Yeah.
That is because you are taking your order taking, you're taking referrals. I love that for you, but every MSP in the country can close 75% of their referrals.
Yeah.
They do. Sure. All of them, 75, 100%. Yeah. 2, 3, 4 clients a year. Great job. That is really important. It's really good. I'm not trying to diminish that. What I'm saying is that is not the same thing as selling. Okay. You have to figure out how to get somebody who doesn't trust you, doesn't know who you are, and barely understands what you do to sign a contract.
Yeah.
Very different than, hey, my friend Shirley, you helped them out, and Shirley said I should do what they did, what she's doing. Can you help me too? that's great. And of course we want more of those, and I'm going to give you some tactics to get more of those. But you can't build your business on waiting for it to rain. You got to put in irrigation. You got to put in some freaking sprinklers and go out there and water your trees. And that's waiting for it to rain. Like, rain is great. It's easier. It's free. But you can't just bank on that. You have to have a system for what happens when it's not rainy, when the referrals aren't coming in.
Absolutely.
So for closing, it's going to come down to this. Can you present what you do in a series of business outcomes, of course? And can you tether it to the problems that they brought you earlier in the process? So in Feel Good Close, we call this narrative tunneling. And the reason it's important is that managed services can solve so many problems. And also there's kind of an infinite ways of expressing the value of a good MSP. But if you're trying to explain all the ways you're valuable to somebody who has one specific need, then what you're doing is diluting the perceived value.
Absolutely.
So then they go, wow, this is like a Swiss Army knife, but I need a cleaver. Like, I need one thing to do one thing. And you're trying to sell me something that can do everything. I don't need that. So can I pay less because I don't need all those other features?
Absolutely.
Versus if you, we call the narrow and deep narrative tunnel, is like, figure out what the problem is that got them to resonate. Even if you went and found them and you gave them a cold call and they took a next meeting, that's because something prompted them to. They have a need. Build the entire presentation around that need and solve that need in like 5 different layers. And then you backfill that with, by the way, you're also getting, but wait, there's more, after they're already hooked on the outcome to the problem that they came in to solve. That's the real like core science of a presentation. And it's the best way to get people to stop saying, let me think about it, and start saying, what do we do next?
Absolutely. And I want to make a really powerful point about what you said there, because you're talking about what is that value creation? What was that thing that prompted the action? Because I do this on every single discovery call. I always ask, hey, well, how did you were you referred to Stride? How did you find us or whatever? And cool, it gets my sourcing question. But the very next question, every single time I said, if you don't know about Stride, et cetera, blah, 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 here's where we are. But I say, what prompted you to reach out to Stride today? There was some factor that said, hey, I want to schedule a call with this goofy looking guy. What is it and what was that? So we can focus and make the most of your time, and I can figure out what the right fit is. That is just that powerful sentence of the principle of right fit instead of positioning a sell, because so many MSPs are like, I don't want to sell. I'm not really comfortable. Good. You should do what you do naturally. It's just you're doing it to somebody who currently doesn't work to you. Value creation, asking the right questions, understanding their core issue, but allowing them to tell you exactly why they came into your restaurant or what they're looking for, instead of saying, here's what we have on our menu. Like, that is one of the core fundamental first steps that I see, where it's like you can win and improve that first conversion rate of that discovery to proposal, quote, whatever that next step is in your sales process and cycle, a lot quicker, because you're going to make a guided conversation that not only is going to give them more trust and input to you and put you in a position to be the subject matter expert, it's also going to help you guide towards, what am I actually proposing here today? What am I trying to fix? How can I build that solution creating process? And really, that discovery call should be, hey, how do we build a solution that makes sense together? And if it's me, great. If it's not, can I refer you to somebody else in the space? You will build so much trust early on, and you'll then be allowed to set yourself with that authority by saying, and here's how I would approach that issue, and here's how we've done it before, instead of saying, yeah, this is why security is important and these tools, and it'll keep you uptime, because that method is just not there. It's kind of like if you see these MSPs, you don't win selling security based on fear. You build the value creation and you tie it back to their core issue or the crux of their issue of what they're facing, and you're going to make a much more productive conversation of that. So just the power in that question of, hey, what prompted you to finally reach out today? Really, it's so powerful.
I mean, that's a good, Casey, you segued well into the next variable. So we have to close a high percentage of people who get to the presentation.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we need to do is get more presentations,
Absolutely.
And of course, the way to get more good presentations without compromising the closing rate, because you need to stack these things. Because I could just say, everybody who goes, hi, I saw your ad on Facebook, and I go, great, would you like a quote? Yeah, your LTP will be really high. Your lead to proposal will be 1-to-1. but your closing rate will be 1%. So you don't want to you have to bring in a quote at the right time for the people who are going to buy it. 90% of people who get your paperwork should sign it.
Yeah.
90 plus. And if it's less than 90, you're giving paperwork away too early. So then you need to get your lead to proposal process tightened up. You just talked about, Casey, a great example of the discovery. We start with a discovery call, right fit call, first time appointment, whatever you call it. And then you need to have the process of, from the first time that we speak into the presentation, that needs to be a standard operating procedure that you have practiced in the mirror 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're saying, Brian, well, that seems excessive. Wait a minute. We started this by you saying, I need more clients.
Yeah.
I'm telling you how to do it. It's work really hard. That's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the answer. Get really effing good at this. Get better than everybody else in your town at this. And then you'll close more business. Practice it. So the lead to proposal opens with, I'll give you my 3 shortcut discovery questions. What do you need? Why do you need it? And why don't you have it? You can reskin those questions however you want. What do you need is basically, hey, what prompted you to take the meeting today? Well, you called me. Well, yeah, I know, but a lot of people call you. Why did you take the meeting? Because I need an IT company. Next, why do you need an IT company? Because we're unhappy with this. We have some concerns about security, and a lot of our vendors want us to be SOC something, and we don't have that in place yet. Got it. Finally, why hasn't your current IT company handled this for you? Now you're getting into the pain without having to use the word pain. If you come in and say, hi, I'm an IT company, what are your pain points? You've already violated your trust. You sound predatory. You've heard me say this, Casey, but that's like going up to a woman in a bar and saying, excuse me, miss, what are your turn-ons?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's super transparent, super awkward and cringe. It doesn't make any sense. And you just sound like you sound like every other guy that's done this. Instead of saying, but why are you here? Why do you really need me? Why hasn't your current IT company handled this? Or you don't have an IT company. Why now? Why is this finally at the top of your radar? Well, I've been putting it off for a long time and you called me and I think it was maybe it was serendipity. Okay, so you've just kind of needed somebody to nudge you towards putting this at the top of the priority list. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Good. And this is the secret reveal that everybody is their own biggest problem. The reason they don't have this solved is that they have avoided solving it,
Absolutely.
So we have to guide them and shepherd them through that painful series of self-reflection and awareness of all the things they've avoided to get them to pay money for the things that they want to pretend aren't real. And if you can shepherd them through that process, they will come to the conclusion that they need to spend more money. Rather than trying to whip them forward, you can shepherd them forward. You see what I mean? Instead of being like, well, you need to spend more money and all these leads are so cheap. They're only spending $20 a seat. Like, because you haven't given them any like you haven't let them convince themselves. You haven't guided them to the realization that they need to spend more.
Yeah. And you're actually doing a discredit by, I say this all the time in my world, not all CPAs are created equal. CPA doesn't mean it means you're qualified to do it, but I hate to say it, it doesn't mean that you're always great at it. It sometimes means that you've done the same thing for 20 years and don't stay adapted. You're not really a steward of your craft. And I think that's where, if MSPs are always so passionate about what they do, the tech and how it helps them, bring that passion into there. And I think it's a big piece. We're kind of a little bit deep in the episode, but I want to make sure we have enough time because I do have a lot of questions related to the actual trends, and I have some questions. So if you want, I'd love to put a button on this, like, hey, a 30-second little summary around that process and that method. And then I want to talk into some really specific questions that you're seeing within the MSP space.
Yes. If you need more leads, you need to go tell more people that you can help them. That's it. So do it outbound or do it inbound, which is the same thing. It's just asynchronous. Go let more people know what problem you can solve for them. And if you don't know how to articulate that, that's not their fault. It's yours. So do the work to be able to articulate what they need, why they need it, and how they get it from you quickly, succinctly, in language that matters, that doesn't describe any of the technology. Then get in front of them over and over again and document and rehearse the process of what happens after they say yes to the first meeting. Then practice closing it over and over again. When you work on getting more of those leads, finding more leads, sourcing more leads, improving your LTP, improving your closing ratio, guess what? You get more clients. I have a whole table. I think it's feelgoodmsp.com/book resources, something like that. Anyway, if you have my book, you can get tables and tables and tables of all of this stuff is included in the back. I'm not trying to plug my book, but it's on Spot. The audiobook is on Spotify Premium for free. Go listen to it for free and get all that stuff. Now, let's get into tactics.
Yeah, I actually have a couple questions from some emails that I'd really love to in the space that I've been collecting. I have a Robert from Fort Lauderdale who is a COO at an MSP, and his question is related to seeing that, okay, hold on. I've never done this style before, but the traditional MSP service per seat, I see a serious decline. It's been tough to command and continue to get our 200 to 225 per seat as MSP clients are shifting. How have you seen MSP shifting their pricing or service model to maintain, their goals and cash flow, but also continue to bring that same value to service based on the per seat model? Kind of a long question, but I guess essentially traditional MSP service per seat's kind of dying. What do you see the trend of other MSPs? Where are they going?
Yeah. Great question. I don't think it's dying. I think that the reason we say it's dying is because people are dropping headcount. So you're like, well, when people start dropping headcount because we automate all their people, now we're going to make less money. I think that's really that's the crudest, shortest way of saying, I think, what the concern is. So I just talked about this on an internal webinar for our people the other day. I was trying to remember where I said this. I think that going to per device doesn't solve anything. And if anything, it's a little bit more confusing in my mind. I still think you should have baseline managed services as a per seat or per site. You can do a per site thing and essentially bucket up to 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and do like a flat fee per user and average it at the 75th percentile of what the per user seat would be in that bucket. You could do that. But here's what I would recommend. If you're going to do good, better, best, you should have your full comprehensive managed services and full cybersecurity stack in your good package. Don't piecemeal your stuff. Sell everything in your base package. That's a per seat. Your better is where you add things like compliance as a service or vCISO. Those things are not a per seat. That's going to be a flat monthly fee because it is essentially you're giving block hours to specific resources, and then you have fixed monthly costs for the tools that you use. That's usually your billed per site for a compliance scorecard or a tabletop platform or something. You're usually paid a fixed amount. You pay your vendor a fixed number per customer site, not per user. So your billing model can be the same way. Make compliance as a service a fixed fee, or a vCISO offering as a fixed fee, which should be very expensive. Should be thousands a month. Even if your MSP, you could double your MSP billables by adding vCISO, and that's not tethered to user count because their compliance needs don't change. A doctor with 20 admin or 100 admin still has to be HIPAA compliant. So I would say compliance to me is something that can transcend the per user model. And then your best package is where you add AI on top of that. I think you should never sell AI enablement or AI preparedness without compliance, because that's how they could do AI the wrong way without you. They don't need you to teach them Claude. They need you to make sure that their Claude doesn't wipe their database. So
exactly.
Sell compliance, data governance, best practices, hygiene, all the stuff that has to be in place. They must buy that. Then you sell AI adoption. And then if it were me, just off the top of my head, what if we built agents that could essentially replace people, and then we build them a fixed monthly fee per agent?
Yeah, actually, this does go into another question. Roberto from Las Vegas, who is an owner of an MSP, he said essentially he left an MSP and he was looking to transcend and move from being the computer or the IT guy to really be seen as the technology partner. And he has said, I've started using AI as an opportunity for security, much like you said, for making sure, literally says, so Claude doesn't ruin their database. how can I continue to evolve my service lines around AI, or what do you see other MSPs doing with implementing AI as a billable type of service? You kind of just touched on it with the agent model. I think that's a big portion, but what else have you seen other MSPs do where they said, hey, I've actually recreated a technology, almost like a technology enabled service provider, that flashy term, around AI sales or support for their clients? What have you seen your clients or your MSPs doing within the space?
Yeah. The truth is I haven't seen that many of them do it well. That's the answer. The bigger MSPs, I interviewed a guy named Jim Spignardo on my podcast, who is head of, his title was like director of cloud and AI enablement or something like that. So they kind of merged their cloud and AI into one department, and they're all in on Copilot and, you know, all that stuff. I think, honestly, I think that we are making it way too freaking complicated for the AI, because everybody wants it, but they don't know what it is and they don't know how to buy it. So if you go in there and explain how the technology works, it's the same thing. You're so excited about AI right now that you're going to be like, listen to how smart I am. Dude, here's what you do. You have your team heavily invested in building agents, agentic workflows, which are, by the way, you could just make freaking N8N workflows. It doesn't have to be fully powered AI. Like business process automation, it used to be called machine learning. Then it was called business process automation. Then it was called robotic process automation. Now it's called an AI agent. It's the same goddamn thing. It's the air. What is the air fryer? The air fryer is a convection oven with a glow up. It's the same technology. That technology is from the 70s. And now everybody bought a new device because we called it air fryer because it sounds healthier than convection oven. It's the same thing, an oven with a fan in it. That's all an AI agent is. It's the same shit you've been doing. But now they understand it in a new way, and it's been repackaged. So if your user count is dropping, replace users with agents that you deploy and bill them in a fixed monthly price per agent. But guess what? An agent is more powerful than one employee by an order of magnitude. Why couldn't I bill, hey, $150 or $200 a seat manages your user, but also there's an attack surface on the user, blah, blah, blah. There's also attack surface on an agent, especially an agent at the edge that's functioning for you and taking action. So for $900 a month, we will build, cure, maintain, and evolve this agent that will do this function for you.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I would make it a fixed per functionality. And then you could explain the sausage making later when they go, why do this instead of just buying Motion to manage my calendar or whatever? They look at the consumer AI software. Then you can explain the difference. But what you're trying to do is make them care about security. Don't make them care about security. Just bake security into the thing they care about and say, well, we can't do AI without, like, get the first step of buying our AI package is a 90-day data governance audit to make sure that your AI, so that Mr. Customer, your receptionist can't go to your internal AI and go, how much did my boss get paid last month? And it goes, here's your boss's most recent pay stub.
Yeah.
Because that's what having a lack of data governance, but AI power does. And use that example and the boss will understand. How much profit did we make? How much does each person make? Am I going to get fired this year? Read all my boss's emails and tell me if I'm in trouble. That's what you could do if you do this in the wrong order. So that's it, man. Come up with a use case that the business needs. And then when you get bigger and bigger and bigger, I ultimately would say, we're going to take a percentage of the savings on your P&L. Instead of a fixed price, 25% of all the money I save you with our agents, you pay us. And then you could make hundreds of thousands a year on your agents instead of $1,000 a month. But all the incentives are aligned. So as you get bigger and you have deeper relationships with these larger clients that are all in on agents, that's how I would do it. Be the agent farm. And you have to own this. If you don't, some 25-year-old kid is going to come in and vibe code them stuff for $5,000 a month and break all of your stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I would sell it. And that's also, I think, the answer to the per seat problem.
Yeah, I have Thomas from New York City, but very similar around AI. I think you touched the nail on the head there. I just want to make sure I got all the questions, because most of these questions were around that. And we talked about the importance of, evolving, building that process early on. I feel pretty good. We're just about at time. I always like to do this, but Brian, too long, didn't watch for those MSPs, only have that 1 minute soundbite. Why does their MSP sales process need an update in 2026? What's the 1 minute thing that they can take from this today?
Well, I'll tell you, because what worked in 2024 does not work anymore. It doesn't. The market's appetite for how we have conversations, where we have conversations, has changed because of AI. Because it's easier than ever to send them an email. They're less likely than ever to care about it or believe it. That's one example. So that's why Mike is going around and giving people donuts and booking meetings.
We just did the same thing. We went to New York. We're doing it all over because, I think I come from the MSP, and it's funny. I was at the MSP from 2019 to 2021, and right before COVID, and even though we were remote based, what was I doing? Hosting lunch and learns, breakfast shops, come over, delivering donuts, just saying hello, checking in with people in the community and trying to help and connect other non-even MSP providers. Guess what's working again? The same fundamental basics that people are like, oh, how can I meet with as many as possible online? I don't know. You can walk down a business park. There's still people in offices. A lot of people returning.
Yeah.
I think it's
let me give you one more. This is one more soundbite that everyone can use, and this is here's what you need to do. Now that it's easier than ever to create things, stop using AI to create messages about your value and start using AI to create value and give it away for free.
Yeah.
And if you can do that in 2026, you will get clients.
Brian, once again, thank you very much. Like he said, his book is for free on Audible. Go ahead, take a look. Brian, do you want to hold it up one more time for anybody here just so they can see it? More than happy to show it. A lot of value. How to sell a shitload of managed services. Brian, once again, thank you for doing this. I'm excited to have you on hopefully again later this year, and I know we'll be collaborating again soon.
Yeah, brother. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.